Hello and welcome to stampingcatcrew.com. Today we're going to make this super simple, cute Hello Fall card. It was from a color challenge and the colors just spoke fall to me, and I had to laugh because one of my friends that saw the colors for the color challenge only could think of Ronald McDonald. So she said she tries not to go for the obvious. The stamp set that we used is the Merry Cafe. I love this. It's got a little bit of every holiday that's coming up through the winter. So it says love is brewing. It's I love you and coffee. There is a party in a cup for the tea drinkers. There are fall leaves. There's snowflakes, witch's brew, happy new year. There's Christmas cheer. Just all kinds of little sentiments. And this little perk up guy actually coordinates with this small framelit die from the Coffee Cups framelit set that originally came out to go with the Coffee Cafe. So these two came out to coordinate together, and then this is another stamp set that will coordinate with those two. So that's why I chose to use this and show you kind of what I did with it. I'm going to set that aside. Again, it's the Merry Cafe. It's in the 2017 Holiday Mini for Stampin' Up, which I love. The other item that I was going to show you is this. It's a quilted pattern embossing folder. It's what we've used on the saffron background and also on the white to give it some interest in the back. It coordinates with the quilted stamp set, but it's obviously fun for a lot of other things just to add some texture. So I'm going to grab my pieces. I've pre-done quite a bit to make things a little easier. We have our envelope base. This is our Early Espresso card base. It is cut at 11 inches by 4 1/4. It is scored and folded at 5 1/2 inches. And as always, I always tell you, grab a bone folder, line up your edges, and then you can give that a really nice crisp edge there. The other pieces that I have are, there's a strip of Whisper White, not a strip, but a piece of Whisper White cardstock. Anytime we're using a dark base, I like to have something lighter inside for writing sentiments. So I'm going to add a little adhesive around the outside. Everybody has a different way of adding the adhesive. I do like to go around all 4 corners because I like them to stay down. If I'm doing some kind of watercolor technique or something that will bubble the paper, I will often put adhesive in the middle too. Otherwise, I do all 4 edges. And there's a trick I do with ribbon too that I'll show you. So we're going to get to our base. I'm just going to build from the bottom up. This was So Saffron that we actually did the embossing with that new quilted folder. Looks really pretty. When we get to the point where it matters, I will show you a fail that happens a lot. And it's kind of what I tell my folks that come to classes. Take a really good look at the card first and look at the layers and how it's built up. So this layer is actually Tangerine Tango. So all the dimensions and items that we used, item numbers, how to order, they are all on my blog. It is stampingcatcrew.com. Makes it super easy. So we're just going to center that right on there. So the next layer, and this is what we're talking about, the next layer would be this white layer, and you can see it actually has a ribbon tied around it and tucked underneath. So what you don't want to do is attach your white layer and then go, oh darn, I forgot the ribbon. So always take a really good look at how your card is layered up, or think about how you want the layers to go, and then use your adhesive accordingly. So just a tip, this is the piece of the white embossed cardstock that we had. I've cut 2 pieces of the ribbon, one longer and one shorter, and I often do this. It makes things a little easier when you're just going to do a knot. There is another trick to that. I'm not going to show it today, but you can do it from one piece, tie the knot, give it a snip, and open it up, and it works great. So one of our edges has the Early Espresso right along there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some adhesive on the back of this. And I go right to the end and right to the end. And I'm going to line this right up with the edge here. Then I'm going to take that longer piece of ribbon. So we know this is going to wrap around. What I like to do is I turn it over and I run my adhesive along the 4 edges. I'm going to take my longer piece of ribbon and I have it tucked right here. We're going to have even ends there. I'm going to tuck it around the back and again evenly around the back. And then in order not to leave an open spot, what I do is I run back over that ribbon so that it stays adhesive all the way around the edges. So we know this is going to lay flat now right in the center. I can center this on here. Our next step is the knot. So we had that shorter piece. I often will cut them about 3.5 to 4 inches long. And it's really easy just to lay that right on top and do a nice knot, and then we're going to tidy up the edges at the very end. The next thing we have is these pieces. I've pre-die cut them from the framelits that we had. This was part of the designer series paper that goes with the Coffee Cafe set. It is the 2-sided, but I did it as one of the warming things. It had that wood look to it. And what I want is I die cut another one in white. And I'm going to show you why I did that. Let's set these aside for a moment. I'm going to grab our Stampin' Up! Foam mat. And these are stamped in the Tangerine Tango. And my accent color that I chose was Early Espresso. So I always tell the ladies for the color challenge, use your primary colors. You really want it to look like the photograph that we chose as the color inspiration. And then beyond that, just try and use another accent color because I know it's incredibly hard to stick just to those colors. So what I did, this one says Hello Fall. It's pumpkin spice latte season. So I took the Tangerine Tango and I inked that up. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it aside, I'm going to grab my Early Espresso and I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to take the Hello Fall. And I did it in this order because the Hello Fall is darker, so if we messed up it wouldn't matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this right on here. And because it's a photopolymer stamp and you can see directly through it, I am using the foam mat. It gives it some sponge and then gives you a really nice, clean, crisp stamped image. So that's why I did that. We did the cup in Early Espresso, and I've pre-die cut that piece. We've die cut a lid, which is right here. We already talked about the base, which is here. I've done the little stopper because one of our colors was real red, so that adds a little bit. I knew I didn't want it to be my primary color, and I stamped actually, and then fussy cut 2 of the leaves stamped in red. And that is all we did. And I will show you what I did with the envelope in a little bit. So for right now, I'm going to close up my ink pads. And then what we did for the cup, setting these aside, this direction, I always keep a piece of scratch paper. We have our cup here. We've got some Tangerine Tango right here, and then also our other color is So Saffron. So we've talked about sponging before. When you start off, you end up often with streaks. And so you want to give that a good rub and get some of that Tangerine Tango around your edges. That gives you some depth around the outside for color. And don't forget, when you're blending colors, you can always take color, or you can always add color. You can't take color away. So start lighter, start less, more towards the edges, and that makes it much easier to go back and get the look that you want. So we've done all the edges. We've left the center a little bit bare. We're going to fill that with some of the So Saffron, which is right here. We wanted to have kind of this watercolor mixture look, And so these are the original marks. You can see this is blended out, which is really important because I'm really starting more towards the center here for the cup, and that doesn't give you an opportunity to blend out the color. So it's important if you can take those off right away. So you can see what we've done. We've added some deeper yellow in the center and then some Tangerine Tango more around the outside. And that's all we did for the sponging for that. There's a tiny bit more sponging to do. I'm going to show you how I actually layered the Hello Fall inside of this. They're exactly the same size when you die cut it. And so what I did is I pushed it off to the side a bit. And then I took my paper snips and I looked at the amount of space that I wanted to have around the edge. And I cut right there. And then I went the other direction. A small amount of space. And cut right along the edge. And then I did the same with the top and the bottom on this. I went a little bit off. And I followed the line that I had with the original die. And then I went up a little bit. Again, following the edge that I had with the original die cut. Because you want the same curve on the paper. And so when you are done, you are going to end up with something that fits really nicely inside that and gives it a nice frame. We don't need the mat for stamping anymore. I'm going to set that aside. The last sponging element we had is we did just a tiny, tiny bit. We did a little bit of the orange, which is our Tangerine Tango, along the top. And then we took and spun it around, and we had a little bit of our So Saffron along the bottom. So now we can set that aside. What we're going to do is we're going to layer this onto here. This is our snail adhesive, and it doesn't take much. This is not a solid piece that needs to be laid down and really attached on all four sides. So we put some in the center, and that we're going to add a little more to the back. And then I really like the looks of a card both ways. This lid we happen to put right across the top there. So sometimes I will set a lid underneath, especially maybe if it's an ice drink and you want to see that lid, or if it's something that has whipped cream and you want to offset that. For this one, we're going to go right across the top. So the best thing to use for that is the Tombow liquid glue, which I love. I'm going to add just a tiny string right along the top there. And if you flip that over, you can see that just goes right along the edge. The other part that I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive to is just the very tip of the little red heart that is the drink stopper. And you want to leave a little bit sticking out the top right there. And the only other thing we did was attach the leaves tucked underneath the cup. So I'm going to do that last. So I'm going to leave those aside. I'm actually going to pop up the cup with dimensionals. So I'm going to take a couple here. And like that. We'll peel the backing off of those. Bring our original card right over. We're going to layer this guy right here. And what we're trying to do is just center top to bottom, like that. We talked about putting up the edge of our ribbon. So it's a good time to do that. And then that leaves us our two leaves. So basically what I did is I didn't go all the way to the edge. So what I want to do is take our Tombow liquid glue, and I'm going to put just a very tiny amount on the two stems of the leaves. And then those are just essentially tucked right behind here. We want it off the side a little bit, and this one tucks right behind this one. And it's just enough to add a little bit of the red color to that card. So the last thing that I did, I always tell you to make your envelopes pretty. So I wanted to do something in the coordinating colors, and in this stamp set, there are some dots that are actually meant to be the inside of what looks like some berries to me. And then we also had, obviously, the leaves that we chose. So I'm actually going to just do a spatter of some of the different dots. And it helps to turn them in different directions when you're working with something that has a similar pattern. And then the other leaf that I had is the same open leaf that we used on the card. And if we do that in real red, again, sometimes going off the edge of the paper really helps give your card some motion. Everything is not a continuous look. I'm going to close that up, and you can see our final card here. It's the Hello Fall. It was a color challenge, and that's it. It is super quick and easy. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. It's stampingcatcrew.com, and happy creating!